Hey, everybody. It's been a while, and my apologies for that. But wanted to come back, start doing another series of conversations and talks with not just some friends of mine, but Deems customers as well. And George happens to be both of those things. And a lot of people know George as being well known, very well world renowned, really, in astrology. So he's actually going to start a couple of courses here soon. We can talk about that later. But I just wanted to have him on and have a conversation and let you guys get to know George a little bit more like I do. So hi, George.
Hi, Chris. Well, it's so nice. We've been talking about this for many months, really, haven't we?
We
Getting
have.
together online and sharing. And you were very kind to give me a very good deal on well, your first iteration of the device, well over a year ago, and that's just been superb. And then I've been very, very privileged and pleasured to be able to experience the Mark II, the golden one with the diamonds, and that's just been really powerful. And what was so lovely is when we got together last month in the United States, is you being able to, in a way, show me how to use it. I learn a lot from those sort of experience of you gave me a session which is just amazing. So I was able to really feel it, and as a result, get a sense of, because you created it, you see. You see, part of all these technologies, when you understand the person who's created it, and it carries that energetic. And so that was just beautiful to be able to experience that. I think I can activate through it now even more successfully than before.
Well, that's great. That's what it's all about, right? You know, learning how to, bring these things into the world, all these different types of modalities, whether it's a physical thing or it's like what you do as well for people understanding, what it is that they need to remember, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we were also saying this, weren't we, just before coming on air, that really, I think you said it's all about remembering. And so whether it's, the language of astrology, which is the soul contract, which is the natal chart reveals the soul contract, and it shows you, then gives you through free will the ability to express it in a positive, more integrated way, or in a negative, less integrated way. Like, the Deems device is another way to allow oneself to tap into the potentiality of our own divinity, our own ability to heal ourselves. In some ways, whether it's astrology or sound therapy on my side, or your activation through the Deems, and also through your own energy system, because really the Deems for me, when I've worked with you, is just an extension and an additive to what you're doing through your own auric field, right?
Well, yeah, I think like we said earlier, these things are just tools to help us remember what we're able to do without using anything. It's just part of the evolutionary process of the human race, coming into a higher spiritual fourth density place.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, because fourth density, it's really, in that sense, it's the heart, isn't it? It's
Yes.
a lot of people forget that, because obviously it could be low versions of a fourth 4D,
Yeah.
you know, people going in and out of 3 or 4D, like you were talking to me the other day about the Sasquatch, But the fourth really is that Christ consciousness, isn't it? It's going through the heart. And so you activate the lower three through the fourth, and then the upper three get activated, because
Yeah.
there's that sort of corpus callosum, if you like. I mean, obviously that's relevant to the left and right hemispheres of the brain, but on a bigger scale, it's the body through the corpus hartus.
Yeah.
Not sure not sure my Querus. I'm not sure my Latin was very good there. Whatever.
I'll just say yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's like, and I know a lot of folks focus on the fifth density, which is it's fine. It's good. It's part of our evolution, but we can't forget and skip the fourth, and the fourth density is, like you said, it's the heart, but it's love. It's all the lessons of love. So up through the first three densities, we're leaving the third into the fourth, because we're essentially on a positive planet and we're evolving in a positive way as a race. If we were on a negative planet, we would be often skipping the fourth density into fifth because we want to go straight into intellect and intelligence. But all the lessons we've learned as human beings in the third density, we have to then take that intelligence that we've gained and turn it into um, the ability to manifest and use the vibration of fourth density through the lessons of love, because the lessons
Mhm.
of love are very much faceted, and so there are things that don't appear to be love that truly are, and things that appear to be, um, they don't maybe look like it's something that it's a loving thing, but then really it is. And then there are things that look loving that aren't, and that's what we have to learn and know that and discern the difference. So those are the lessons of fourth. And then once we learn that, then we can go into high technology, which is the fifth density.
And I think actually, as you speak those words, a memory comes back to me. It's a visceral in the bone marrow of the fall of Atlantis. And of course, there are a number of iterations of that civilization. It wasn't just one fall.
Right.
And perhaps there was that the skipping of the fourth. They jumped to sophisticated technology and then technocracy, rather than the Lemurian concept of remaining in the biologique,
Yeah.
remaining in the biological human. And as I start to understand where we're at in this time zone, timeline, is remembering the power of the human potentiality and not giving it up through short-term needs or fears of allowing the machine, think Frankenstein, to take over us. Um, we've got to bring the light codes back to us. So whether it's sun gazing, working with the Deems device, astrology, for me, sound is such a big part of it, such a big component, is when we activate the frequencies through the heart, as you say. Then there's that alchemical transformation, which is really, I think, actually at the core of the Hermetic tradition when you really peel it back. I'm actually, Katie Bishop, our mutual friend, she's leading an educational program on Hermetics. And
Mm.
I'm going to go on and just talk about the history of it. But one of the things I've really rediscovered recently is actually Hermetics is not a left brain intellectual philosophical tradition, which of course even the Greeks got it wrong. It became very left brain. It's very heart centered. It's very transformative within the biological, because that's when the alchemy is the holy grail, as opposed to something physical. It's internal, isn't it? Which is heart.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it's that's kind of the fourth to fifth density lesson there, is taking that intellect and integrating it into the heart. It's not that we won't have that technology or that we won't have the intellect in a fifth density level, but we need to integrate as positive race. We have to first integrate it into the heart and understand the processes of the vibration, because what we feel is love, when you've had an intense love for somebody, like you just don't want to eat. Everything is wrong and everything is right. It's like everything is off, but it's a wonderful feeling. Well,
Yeah.
that in the full fourth density becomes a vibration that you can measure.
Mm.
And then that is when we can then take that vibration that we can measure and then integrate it through what we've learned, to begin manifestation. And we could build a house out of nothing with our minds, through the vibration of love. And that's the lesson. And that's why negative forces, negative entities, tend to skip the fourth, because they want to go straight into being able to manifest things for the purpose of
Yeah. I
controlling of
mean,
others.
it does make me think, and this is a question rather than a statement, is, part of the struggle within the New Age movement, which of course has so many wonderful things going on in it, is that jump, that hyperspace jump from 3 to 5D, not going through the heart. And it's because it's in a rush. And really what you're saying is to pull back. And one of the ways which we can pull back is to reconnect with nature.
Oh
But at
yeah.
the same time, nature's been so corrupted, and tainted in so many parts of our precious planet, not everywhere. but the water supply isn't what it used to be. And we're talking hundreds of years here of slow, issues. And once we can use the technology to cleanse it and to reactivate Gaia, you used to live on that incredible island, Kauai. I
Mm.
mean, I've been to 97, 98 countries. I've never been to a place like Kauai before. It is wholly unique, and in a way that could be everywhere again one time in the future. It really, and it must be.
It
So
will.
there is that dream world of dreaming in through consciousness, as you say, to manifest what we need to do very much. But we also must be aware of what we're releasing behind and acknowledge that and not live in cloud cuckoo to realize what's happened, where we've got to. So we alchemize the past, and then we can start building as we grow together collectively and individually to manifest this beautiful future of the age of Aquarius.
Oh yeah, yeah. And from my memories and resources from other experiences I've had, that it's less than 100 years before nearly the whole of humanity has made that transition.
I don't doubt that. I mean, in my short life so far, it's amazing to see. I mean, just watching the children that are born today, especially the ones whose parents are brave and keep it into the biological, meaning they're not allowing strange foreign substances, untested substances to be placed inside them. The auric field is vast with some of these newborns being born in, and you and I met a few of those only recently. It's kind of exciting when you see the potentiality, how quickly the world can grow and harness its natural energy and bounce back. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the one thing too is, to help remove the fear of, a lot of things that happen on Earth right now, whether it's, disease issues or any other type of access issues or anything like that, is that if you're living in the vibration of love, one of the lessons of love is nothing can affect you if it isn't
Mm,
meant to. If you haven't chose it to
mm.
affect you often prior to being incarnated, if you haven't chosen that as an experience, it's not going to have an effect on you. So you have that protection.
It is funny you say that because it brings an anecdote to mind. I remember meeting this lady. She was already in her 60s when I was in New York City. This is quite a few years before the pandemic. And she was telling me about her rather naughty, fun life in New York City in the 1980s. And she had one or two wonderful lovers that she was telling me about and stuff, and both of them had died of AIDS. And it's a very good case in point what you've just said, because this wonderful lady who has a very high vibration, big heart, was totally unaffected by anything, which is a case in point. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when you really can operate at that frequency, you're kind of untouchable.
Yeah. I mean, you just raise your vibration. And if there's anything, it doesn't matter what's happening around you in the world. If you're not
Yeah.
meant to experience it, if you haven't chosen it
Mm,
prior to incarnation, it will
mm.
not affect you. And that's even financial.
Yeah, I mean that's a really big takeaway actually in today's conversation for people to listen to, because that is the total breaking down of Saturn, which is fear, control, and the matrix. It is, it's expressed in the tarot card, of course, in that lower frequency visual expression of the devil, of Baphomet sitting on his throne with the chains around the naked man and woman either side. And of course, the chains are actually loose, but the adults, the humans, don't realize they're loose. They can shake the chains off and be free. And I think so much of today is about realizing fear is a specific frequency,
Yeah.
deliberate frequency to keep us in a false perceptual matrix. And now we're having the ability to observe it consciously. As Jung said, when you make the unconscious conscious, it no longer remains fate. And so that's how we can alchemize and get into that Christed light of 4D. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another one of the 4D love lessons, in love and acceptance of those things, even that you don't agree with or that you are afraid of. If you accept it, there's no longer any fear.
Yeah. No, I
It's
mean,
like, how can we accept certain things? But that's that's one of the tricky lessons.
no, totally. I mean, I've had to work on that quite a lot in the last 3, 4 years, as you know. Yeah, that's quite true.
Yeah, so it's like it's a journey. That's the whole point of it, right? That's the whole point of us evolving. We can't evolve without experience, good and bad. you know it's how we accept it, how we integrate it, and how we react to it that shows our evolutionary process to ourselves, not to anybody else. It doesn't matter who
So
they think.
jumping into some of your creative projects, so what are you, at the moment, Chris, is on the menu for you as far as creativity? And obviously, you're continuing building out this, Mark II of the Deems device, which is really a sort of a golden lightsaber. It's incredible. But what else is on the agenda?
Um, well, I'm still working on doing a larger version that you can lay down in with a series of magnets that are spinning at a high RPM, and adding in some other technology as well, which is sound, subsonic sound, and then just frequency sound depending on the body part that you work on. So what it does is it's not going to do like, it's not like the medical bed you see in sci-fi where you lay down and it stitches a new arm. Those do exist, but that's not going to be really released to humanity yet.
No,
We're not there. That's part of our evolution. You know,
absolutely.
we have to learn how to heal ourselves as well in the process. And so what this particular bed does, you put you in a bubble of magnetic, piezoelectric, photonic, subsonic energy. And while you're in that bubble of energy, your body will do what it chooses to do. It's a very passive technology, does not force anything on your body. Because if you're meant to have an arm that's missing and you get it stitched back on, you may have something happen that is not to your best benefit to your soul. All of this is the best benefit of the soul to support human evolution right now. And so we just
And
allow.
maybe another way to say is to support the incarnation as it needs to play out in that specific incarnation. So if someone's meant to have, a limp left hand for whatever the reason is, it's going to still, that should then be supported, but it could maybe be improved somewhat. Is that what you're saying?
If that's what the higher self and your
Right.
physical form choose.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
suppose the lesson here is tuning into the truth of the higher self and understanding, the higher self is, when one understands that, then we start looking at the material dimension, the physicality a little differently, don't we? We pull away from our sort of superficial needs and think about the greater perspective.
Your purpose. I mean,
The
people want
purpose.
to know the purpose of life. You first have to know who your higher self is and that you have one, and understand that concept of duality that every single one of us are living. Because you think about when you leave Earth and you leave this incarnation cycle, because we're locked into, some people call it the matrix or a grid. I mean, our consciousness is there because we need to be locked into it to continue our incarnation cycle. Okay.
Mm.
But when you're outside of that, this incarnation cycle, there's no such thing as time as we know it
Right.
now. So we can go into the past or the future, any point in time we'd like. And if you can do that, so if you think about it, essentially, we've already, every single one of us have already returned to source, billions
Mm.
of years in the future of what we see it as. But before we get there, we decide in the upper sixth density to turn around and help guide ourselves through every problem that we had, every circumstance that we had through all of our lifetimes. So that's even when we're not even conscious of it. When we're in the lowest densities, we help things happen,
Yeah.
if we choose. So if you can go back and help yourself, and then you're also incarnated, there's two of you,
Yeah.
and that's your higher self. So your higher self, there's nobody in the universe that's going to make the better decision for you than yourself.
Yeah, I mean, also brings on a whole other conversation. I mean, as you know, love Philip Pullman and his Dark Materials. It's one of the great
Mm.
trilogies and written by a Brit in the last 100 years. It's very Tolkien-esque in a way, but different. And it's he talks about the diamond. It's pronounced demon, but it's not negative. And on this reality, in this particular Oxford, in this particular timeline in England, the higher self, the soul, is expressed in another physical form next door to you or me. And so it's very interesting to start to think about the soul or the higher self having that conversation. When I was younger, I'd look at someone talking to themselves and say they're batshit crazy. Well, now I'm beginning to think, actually, no, they're onto something and I'm not. It's that sense of, okay, let's tune into the conversation before I make a judgment.
Right. And understand the greater aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's an interesting. Oh, and by the way, this isn't, it looks like whiskey, but it's actually cinnamon clove water, which everybody should drink every day.
Oh, this looks like pure gin, but I can assure you it's perfect water.
Yours looks like water, so you're good either way.
Well, this looks like a huge bottle of gin, doesn't it? Or vodka.
Oh, but no, I would like to talk a little bit about your upcoming course,
Oh yeah.
because I'm gonna, also try to learn some things that I've astrology has always been. I was raised fundamentalist Christian, so the first thing we were all taught was it's evil, and I knew that was not the case,
Oh, sure.
but I didn't pursue it either. But the more I learn about it, the more I understand that we have, before we were incarnated, we set when we're going to be born. There's a time,
Yes.
there's a place, and all that has an effect on us galactically as a soul, as an individual, and as a race.
So,
So that has begun to make sense to me now. And so I myself want to learn more about it.
I mean, there's something very mystical still for me about astrology, and I still have to kick myself when I'm doing, I mean, say I read 15, 20 private charts, personal charts a week. Um, it amazes me just how powerful it is as a tool to tap into a greater truth. And the soul contract revealed in the natal chart constantly seems to show archetypal patterns. And so through free will, we have a choice as how to express that archetypal pattern. I'll give you an example. Aries, which I am in the Western zodiac, I'm Pisces and Vedic, but in Western, the Aries, at a high integrated interpretation of integration, would be teaching people radical freedom. But a lower, less integrated would be just selfishness and not caring about society, just doing what I want to do, irrespective of other people, not very collective. And so we have that choice, don't we, as to how we're going to move towards a higher expression or a lower expression, maybe a more integrated expression or a less integrated expression. And that's true for all the zodiac signs. So when people say, oh, they don't like Scorpio, or they don't like Aries, or they do, well, they've had a negative experience of that, which is probably a mirror to their own journey, as opposed to, the high expression of Scorpio is just magical because it's so psychic, it's so intuitive, as well as strategic. And it can really get up to 80,000 feet, look down and understanding the whole journey of the soul, the psyche. Psyche means soul in Greek. Psychology is the study of the soul. Isn't it amazing that the New York psychiatrist or whatever psychologist doesn't even understand that? They think it's the study of the mind. How preposterous they are. But anyway, the point is about astrology is it's just a tool, it's just a modality to get to know thyself better. I mean, I also say a number of people may not need it because they can jump to the Akashic or they can get that insight elsewhere. But I think for many of us who are in the 3D, who want to move through the fourth and into the fifth, it's a really good textbook, it's a powerful toolkit to be able to understand the archetypes, understand the planetary alignments. The planets carry potent energies. When Mars is in Aries, it does behave very differently to when Mars is in Pisces. And you see, for me, that's not even debatable. It is what it is. The conversation is how are we going to harness those energies? Now, the Vatican and City of London have used astrology since get-go. I mean, I know enough of those Masonic lodges in the City of London who've done it ever since, and the Vatican always do it. And, when JP Morgan said, oh, millionaires never use astrology, but billionaires always do, I've always sat up and listened. So can't we, the people, get access to this technology? Isn't that what we're about? Is a mass awakening, or is it just going to be a very small elite group of us who can do it, hidden in some nice little private temple? Well, that was the past. I think the future is about us collectively being able to use these tools as and when we need them. So the astrology class for me is about sharing that with a greater audience. And it's a little different from the astrology that other people teach because I really do bring in the myth. I think the myth, whether it is originally from the Anunnaki is a great conversation. Whether the Elohim are, not necessarily always positive forces is a great conversation. I don't pretend to know, but I do think understanding these myths, they carry powers, and we're bringing power back to us at this time of awakening. We're repositioning the human DNA in order to access something more cosmos, more galactic, more independent. You know, we haven't been fully independent, as you know better than anyone, on this planet for a long time. I believe we can get closer to that independence, and astrology is one tool through which we can achieve that.
And that's exactly what my whole concept has been with, like, whether it's the deans or anything that I do, even just teaching and working with people one-on-one, is it's all about, like you said, know thyself.
Yeah.
We have to reach in and understand what makes us who we are, why we act and react the way we do. And in that process, we become free from it.
Yeah.
And then when we're free from it, then we can move into these wonderful, beautiful moments that we're going to have, which most of us have been taught is what heaven is, you know, is freedom, manifestation, traveling throughout the universe and doing what you want and being whatever you want to be. And that's what we're working for. But you have to know everything about what's inside first. And that can be a scary trip.
And it's a life's journey. It's a life work of it's, you know, the journey takes a lifetime in a way on in this dimension now for us to constantly be peeling that artichoke to get to the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And then understanding, you know, once we know what makes us tick, then we can be of service in a
Yeah.
greater way also. You know, and then I think that's the divergence of the polarities, you know, negative to positive, is the negative sees no purpose in understanding others and being of assistance, but they do see the value of enslaving those that believe that. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we can understand all of these lessons, beginning from the inside out, of the lessons of love, then
Yeah,
we're protected from that. And
we
right
are.
now we're not. But
No, and actually, you know, the darkness collapses with that mass ascension process because there's nowhere for them to exert their power and control through fear because it doesn't exist anymore. Right.
right. And so that's why I do what I do. And I know that's why you do what you do. You want people to understand that concept and then begin stepping into that sovereignty of who they are, you
Yeah,
know?
no, it's really going to be fun. I mean, this course is my first course. I've actually just set up something called georgehlewisacademy.com, and with a dear friend and business partner, Brian D'Alessandro, he's helped me build this out fantastically. You know, as you know, I'm not very technical, and it's really exciting actually because we're going to be offering lots of different courses to really help all of us, me included. I mean, what's great about teaching is it forces me to be the greatest student. I mean, I really profoundly mean that. You know, if I'm going to be teaching something, my gosh, I better be up to speed. And so
Yeah,
it allows me that duality of student teacher. It allows me to understand the archetypes of the negative and the positive. And that's where the alchemy comes in, is through the integration and even sometimes just the observation. It doesn't always have to be integration. It can be just seeing it. Because when you witness both, in some ways, the timeline collapses, meaning the polarity collapses, and then you are literally the magician card, as in the tarot and the major arcana, and you are juggling through the elements, you know, the whole as above, so below, so within, so without, you know, which is Hermes Trismegistus, which really is Thoth, which is Atlantean.
yeah. You know, and it's us understanding all of those things now
Yeah.
that will push not just our own soul, but all of humanity forward. And so thank you for doing what you do.
Oh,
You
well, and thank you for doing what you do. And we must check in with each other periodically. I think this is fun.
yeah, yeah, no, I love it. I know, you know, people are gonna love to get to know you better, and I do. I mean, we've known each other a couple of years now, and spent some time together. We even went to
Yeah,
see the totality of the eclipse,
I know.
Northern Vermont.
It's interesting you bring that up because you know we're all still processing that, and you and I experiencing that with the snow all around us.
Mm,
There were some light codes that were given to us just before totality and just after. And what I mean by that is to do with the repair of the eye and the corona in the eye, which of course corona is crown in the
mm,
sun, And the photon light, as we all know, is much whiter than it was when we were younger. And, you know, that can get into the cloud seeding and all the spraying up there to create more fear in Saturn and control. Well, more people are learning about the seeding of that. And now we're coming to see, well, if we actually work with eclipse energy positively, not just negatively, as we've always been told through the textbooks, well, actually, we are able to pull in something very powerful. And that transmission, I'm looking forward to sharing with more audiences in the future. And you and I did have a little initiatory conversation about maybe doing a retreat together at a time of a solar eclipse somewhere in 2025, because there will be so much potent energy coming through, which we could all harness together.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. It's that, there was that, I don't know how many people were in that group we were with, but
20, 15, I can't remember.
something, and I don't know if anybody didn't shed a little tear
No.
in the moment, because you could feel it. You could feel this beautiful love coming from, and that light, if you recall, on the snow around everything
Yeah.
was like a lavender color. It wasn't white.
It really was. It was crown chakra-esque,
Yeah.
purple, lavender. And then, of course, we were in this darkness as totality occurred. And then because we could see we're up in the Canadian border mountains, there were light all 360 from far away around us. But we were in this darkness where totality was. It was so beautifully surreal and nothing fearful. It was inspirational, aspirational. It was connected. It was beautiful.
It was.
It
It
was
was totally worth the trip.
Well, anyway, lots of love to you, and we'll do more of this.
No, absolutely. No, we absolutely will. So, I guess we'll say goodbye for now, everybody. And that I love you. Thank you so much for watching the video. And there'll be more with George. Talk to y'all. Bye.